Well, Ahmad Shah Mohibi is the president of Rise to Peace and a former state and defense advisor in Afghanistan. He joins me now live from Washington. Ahmad, it's been a matter of weeks, hasn't it, since the Taliban claimed that Afghanistan is now a safer place since foreign troops have withdrawn. And now we're hearing this. It's not a safer place at all, is it?
It is not at all. I think for ISIS and Al-Qaeda, the defeat of the Afghan government or the collapse of the Afghan government, the troops withdrawal of the U.S. forces, it's a great opportunity for them. For ISIS since 2019 and also from the defeat of their caliphate, even in Syria and Iraq, this is a great opportunity. A lot of a series of failures and mistakes taken place by the Taliban. I think the first one was the release of their prisoners. Mass ISIS prisoners that were detained by the Afghan security forces have been released on the first day by the Taliban. Now they are seeing the threat by them. So the Taliban are struggling to protect the Afghan nation and the promise they have made over the course of 20 years that if we become powerful or victorious, we will protect Afghanistan and bring security and safety. The fact and the reality is the Taliban themselves are suffering from an economic crisis in Afghanistan, that there is a political rift among the Taliban. At the same time, there are reports, and some of the officers I have interviewed, and the former Afghan officers and people in Afghanistan, that they have reported me that there are groups of Taliban joining ISIS over the whole rift that has come in terms of ideology and the group's future, because there are Taliban that do not want to cooperate with the world, does not want the aid to come to Afghanistan, but there are Taliban who wants that happens. So there is a chaos, and that chaos has started both from the corrupt Afghan government in the past, and that came to the Taliban. And right now we see this ISIS growing in South and Central Asia.
And of course, this is an attack on the spiritual home of the Taliban, isn't it? Kandahar. How do you think the Taliban's response to this will differ from the response that we've seen in the past when these things have happened? The response from the previous government and more importantly, the response from the United States when they were there?
Well, the attack that happened in Kandahar, in the birthplace of the Taliban, it gives a message that to the Taliban that they cannot rule over Afghanistan, and that's number one. And then number two is that if ISIS claimed the responsibility for this attack, but if we look at the previous attacks, it is a similar attack like ISIS. That shows that ISIS wants to collapse Taliban. ISIS do not want Taliban to rule over Afghanistan. This is an ideology, a political ideology from Abu Musab Zarqawi, who founded that group, to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, to all the way to the current leadership of ISIS. They want to rule the Muslim Ummah community, and they did not see Taliban a good fit. That's why they did not plead allegiance to Osama bin Laden back in 1980s and 90s. Later on in 2003, they created the ISIS of Iraq. But overall, we are seeing the verge of collapse, not politically, but at the same time financially and ideologically, because people did not want the Taliban, so the Taliban took over. Now there is a problem of Taliban soldiers who cannot feed themselves and their families. What they see opportunities with ISIS and other groups. They join them to earn some money. At the same time, those who ideologically and religiously attached in the vision of ISIS, I think that's a big problem right now. So we have an ISIS-K or Daesh of Khorasan problem in Afghanistan, a big challenge for the world and the region.
And of course, a huge challenge, isn't it, for the people of Afghanistan that have had so much to contend with over recent weeks and months. They're just getting used to having the Taliban in command again. They don't quite know what it means for their women folk, for education for women, all of the other things that we've been talking about ad infinitum. And now they're going to a mosque to pray and to worship, and they're getting attacked at that very center of their existence. It must be incredibly hard for them right now.
It is. Let's put it this way. 43% of Afghanistan GDP was from foreign aid. That has been gone. 75% of public spending was from foreign aid. That is gone. We're talking about a country of 38 million population, with half of the population living below the poverty line. That was before the Taliban takeover. So we're looking at a crisis that Afghans are desperate. You're living in chaos, uncertainty. The world is silent whether to recognize the Taliban or not. There is backlashes in the United States over President Biden administration to send the aid to the Taliban or not. So Afghans have been the victim of this prolonged war and the collateral damage, whether the countries, I think it's for the world to need to act, whether they're going to support the Taliban or not, because there's a humanitarian crisis. That humanitarian crisis will distance people from the centers of Kabul and their provinces, and they will join groups like ISIS. We will see more attacks, more violent terrorist attacks against ethnic minorities and religious groups like Shia worshippers in Afghanistan. The biggest reason for that should be unemployment and the Taliban inability to control Afghanistan fully, a promise that they made for the people over the past 20 years.
Okay, Ahmad Shah Mohibi, thank you very much indeed for